Well, hey, everybody, Wes McDonald here, and welcome to day number 3 of the 10-day flat rate challenge. And Ken, as we were just saying a couple minutes ago, I cannot believe that we're already here in day 3.
I tell you what, Wes, it is just amazing how fast the days are flying by. I am having such a good time. It is nice to see so many people. Just today, we've had people sign up for the program from Great Britain, from South Africa, a couple from Canada, and some more from the United States. So we really welcome everybody to the event, and we hope that you get some real value out of it. We're doing what we can.
We certainly are. And for those that don't know me, I'm Wes McDonald. I'm the owner and co-founder of Wes McDonald Co. And I've been a flat rate enthusiast for as long as I can remember. I think the first time I spoke about it, I was on stage 8 or 9 years ago. And it's really neat how the world has come together. The conditions have come together to really make this an awesome opportunity for those dealers that are willing to roll up their sleeves and do something new, right? And you mentioned, Ken, I'm just going to pull up a little, thing here. Let's see if I can do this. You mentioned some people coming in from other countries, and that's so exciting, right? That we've got some more from different parts of the world. And we still do not have anyone in South America or Antarctica. So if you're out there and you're watching the recording of this and you're in South America and Antarctica and selling managed print, we'd love to, see you join the challenge. I'm not sure how much managed print is going on down on the equator or down below the equator, but we'll find out, I guess. One of the things that I'd suggest for everybody, if you get a chance, please post your questions in comments, right? So this is a live stream format. For those that are watching the recording, obviously it looks pretty much like a webinar that you would see, but this thing is happening right now, and your opportunity to contribute. So one of the, the first things that I'll, ask for everyone just to get some people involved is, what's different on the screen overlay today? And I'll give that a few seconds to digest for those folks that were on yesterday or the day before. What's different on the screen today that wasn't there before?
And while they're thinking about that, do us a favor, put in the comments where you're watching from, because we love to see all of the different people that are here and watching live.
Absolutely. Well, I don't think anyone's noticed so far, Ken.
Well, I don't know. It's some people not very observant.
Oh, we got one. Hold on here. And let's see here. I love John. He says, West new shirt. Yeah. So this shirt gets me into a lot of trouble in different places because don't look too closely at it, but it's kind of like it's a little blurry and it doesn't show up quite as badly on screen, but in person, sometimes it can hurt your eyes. And I know it's a big no-no for TV, but I love this shirt. So yeah, appreciate that. But no, that's not it. There's one other small thing there. And I guess it's time to give it away because I don't see any other comments coming in. And what it is a little tiny purple cow, which is up in the corner there by our live emblem. And as we're getting into talking about sales and marketing, this idea of a purple cow is really important. I was sharing with our guests and with our sponsor earlier that, the drawing of the purple cow that you see up there, don't be too mean because I actually drew that myself about 16 years ago when I was doing assessment training. And I ran into it while reading a book by Seth Godin. He's a brilliant mind in the marketing space. And, he had this concept of the purple cow, and I'll give you a brief overview because it's really important for what we're going to be talking about today. So my family and I, Ken, I know you're a big traveler as well, right? But we love to travel. And my family and I are really into road trips. And that's been so hard on us for the last year because that's what we do. For the events that would have been down in Florida, we'd have driven down and spent some extra time. And we have actually crossed the entire country. So a lot of people don't know this, but my family and I traveled from Halifax, Nova Scotia, and all the way to Vancouver, British Columbia. And it was a sponsored trip. So we got funded to cross the country and post little videos, back in the day before it was popular. We actually had to mail DVDs back to our editor in Toronto. There was no such thing as uploading, to the web for editing, much like we do today. But the thing about road trips is, that first day is always so exciting. And you think you've got it all figured out. You got the games in the car for the kids, you've got your snacks, you've got, everything they think you need for this long journey. And for some reason, by about hour 7, everyone starts losing their mind, right? So the kids in the back start fighting, poking each other. Everyone's getting tired. Someone has to go to the bathroom. I don't want to stop because I know I have 2 more hours to go before I hit the spot that I want to spot. And everyone's getting a little on each other's nerves. And by about hour 6.5, I give in. We actually have to pull over into this gas station to make sure everyone can use the bathroom and get out and just not kill each other. And wouldn't you know it, I look over into the field to the right, and I see this purple cow. And so I run over and tell my wife, Leslie, I'm like, Leslie, look over there. Do you see what that is? And she looks at it and she's like, oh my God. And she runs and gets the kids. The kids stop fighting. And we all run over to the fence and start looking at this purple cow scratching her heads. And next thing we know, there's a whole crowd of people. They say, like, why is that cow purple? And I'm like, I don't know why the cow's purple. It's the only one that's purple. Maybe it's dyed. Maybe it's, maybe it's actually growing its hair that way. I have no idea. And before long, there were tons and tons of people gathered around this cow. Now, what's really important about this story, everybody, is that I didn't say that there were aliens, above the cow, or that the cow had 16 legs, or that the cow was 3 times bigger than a normal cow. The only thing I said, the only difference in that cow was that it was purple. And that's some of the things that we'll talk about today as we talk about selling flat rate, is that flat rate is not a whole new kind of managed print. It is a different way of doing managed print. And as we look into some of the value propositions later on, we'll use that yardstick of the purple cow and its simplicity, and yet the impact that it has to make sure that you can do a better job of, moving those flat rate programs into your customer base, right? So Ken, I know that you've seen me speak on that story one time before.
Okay, so I have a comment about that. One of the things, just to play off his purple cow, is when you're out selling, if you're the only person that has a purple cow, you're unique and people will remember you.
Yes, absolutely. And certainly today, as we've said, the question I get asked quite often is, well, everyone's not doing flat rate managed print yet. And I go, yeah, that's great. Because if you are, you're going to be making money hand over fist. And one of our guests today will actually be able to help share his stories about how he's doing that in a certain part of the marketplace. But before we go any further, I do want to welcome someone on board. So Ken, I'm going to hide you here as I introduce our sponsor. So I'll talk to you in a few minutes. And we've got Melissa Whitaker, CEO founder of Melissa Whitaker International. How are you, Melissa?
Good. Glad to join you guys today.
Well, I can't thank you enough for sponsoring the event. For everyone that is in today, this 10-day challenge would not be possible without people like Melissa Whitaker International sponsoring, right? So it's a free event, but the information and the time that it takes to put these things together, of course, none of that stuff is free. So I personally, from the bottom of my heart, I can't thank you enough. Anytime I've done some of these initiatives, when I reach out to you, you've always been just incredible. So thank you once again.
You're welcome. Yeah, no problem. Glad we could do that.
Yeah, so we've had the good fortune of knowing each other for a lot of years, and we've been to shows together, and I've seen you speak. But for those that are joining us today on this Flat Rate Challenge, can you please give them a little background on what you do?
Sure. And I hope there's not, looks like we have a little audio stopping here and there. So hopefully everyone can hear me on this side. So glad to join everybody today. Yeah, as Wes was nicely mentioning, I'm the CEO and founder of Melissa Whitaker International. I did start the company 11 years ago, which I can't believe that. Shocking, but in 2010. And we're just thrilled that we can be a resource for dealers in the dealer channel. And we specifically help companies increase their revenue and profits. And we do it specifically through sales management, training, coaching, and consulting. And as you can see on the screen, we help with the marketing of programs, and we help people just all around increase their revenue and profits. So we're excited to join your group today because, as we have talked about a little bit before, I've also specialized in managed print services, Wes, just like you have for a long time. And both of us have seen quite a bit of a transition there, right?
Yeah, we sure have. And I did forget that point about us, that we've both actually done that. And that was probably one of the most exciting points in my career, because at that point, it was so new. I mean, managed print services, although it's very, run of the mill today, back when we were specialists, it was exciting. We had skill sets. We
Yeah.
were learning things that other people, simply didn't. And the ability now in the flat rate, sort of era that we live in, it's everywhere. And we've talked about this in a couple of the other episodes that, you look at almost anything today, you can buy in some kind of subscription model or some kind of flat rate model. So it's pretty exciting to be here doing that again. And so when you talk about that, you were an MPS specialist. What kind of, things can you do? What kinds of advice would you have for those that are looking to get into flat rate?
Yeah, sure. So one thing I just wanted to point out today was yesterday, I know you guys spoke about assessments, right? And I'm also a big believer in assessments. And I thought it was a perfect kind of parlay into today, because when you do an effective assessment, you also have the opportunity to build rapport and build trust. And that kind of goes right into what we help dealers and specialists and sales professionals do, is we help you guys to build more of that rapport and that trust quicker. We also help people to understand the psychology of the buyer. And Wes, you've mentioned in the last couple of days, one thing that's key, and I heard this yesterday because I jumped on to watch you guys, which was great, I love the fact that you talked about talking about different department heads. And I know you said that kind of adds some rifts to some sales professionals we know out there, right? But I'm also a big believer in that, because we deal with complex buying teams today. Right. We just do. It's not just about major accounts. It's not just about MPS. We just deal with complex buying teams. If there's two or more people you're dealing with, you've got a complex buying team. And so what happens there is, because of kind of my background specializing in this, my team and I have been able to also weave in an understanding, and therefore able to help dealers with not only understanding the effectiveness of how to craft a really effective talk track, how to also really understand who to identify as ideal, right? Who's your ideal clients?
Yes.
And also to have this kind of authentic selling approach, right? So that's one key thing I wanted just to add today, is that by working with individuals like yourself, our organization, any resources in that capacity, one key thing I think that we really have an alignment is that by following these processes of best practices and authentic selling that we've spoken about, we help dealers and sales professionals to differentiate themselves in the marketplace, right? Which I thought was so funny that I was going to mention that you then started with your purple cow. I thought, oh my gosh, this is brilliant. This is brilliant. How did you know? But I love that you talked about the purple cow, because I will tell you that is one area that we really, really focus on. How do you differentiate yourself in the marketplace? And how, by doing that, you gain market share, you gain a competitive edge and effectiveness, and therefore you can maximize your profit while doing a great service to the client. And you can overall show really good ROIs, return on investments. So that's one area I would say totally, of course, absolutely in alignment with you. And I think for flat rate, this is an area to do just that. I mean, we see the economy evolving. We see the writing on the wall. And we're like, how can we utilize this to be ahead of the marketplace, to market ourselves and differentiate ourselves in a way that we are the purple cow, right? So right. I love that. And that's really how we feel we can help out in that, is combining our expertise in management services and differentiating ourselves, along with our expertise of selling, like catapulting your sales effectively with this program, and helping the managers and leaders, because we know that's tricky, right? I mean, one challenge, Wes, we've all had is getting buy-in from dealers and leaders that this is a great idea. And so that's the other thing we also can help people with too, is just really, truly working with that leadership team to not only have buy-in, but also how to be effective coaches, not just manage, but effectively coach their people in a process that we can help them also to understand alongside with you guys.
And I've seen you coaching, and you're amazing. So I would encourage anyone that's on the live stream today to make sure that they get in touch with you. It is just as important to be able to transition that mindset, as you said, between management and the sales reps, as it is to change how you do the billing for the offering, right? So I can't thank you enough again for sponsoring, for continuing to do what you do for our industry. And again, everyone check her out. You can find her on LinkedIn, obviously at Melissa Whitaker International online. And I encourage you to do so. So Melissa, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Wes. Thank you again.
All right.
Have a good show.
Well, that was amazing. And not only do we have one incredible guest and sponsor, but we have a second incredible guest and sponsor. Before we get there, I'm actually going to pull up a couple of the comments here. I love Nelson basically said, I'm going to add you to the stream here, Ken, that it's a pink cow. And I was thinking about that actually when I was trying to put it up, because the thing is, when a drawing is over, 16 years old, apparently the color doesn't stick as much as it should. And I tried to manipulate it a little bit, but it does look pretty pink. And I guess pink and purple both start with a P.
Okay. So now here's what I was going to say is maybe they needed to calibrate their printer or their monitor.
Sure. Sounds like an opportunity. And yeah, it looks like Richie, thanks for adding that. You can hear us loud and clear over in North Carolina. So thank you. And the one thing I forgot to ask Melissa, I'm going to bring you back in for 1 second. If you're still there, if you're available, put your hand up or I won't bring you back in. I know it's a bit of a surprise. There we go.
You can hear me. Yep, I'm here.
Yeah. So Jean-Alfred was asking, Jean-Louise, is that your document in the shelf behind Melissa? And I'm not sure what that...
Oh, yeah. Okay, let me move out of the way for a second. Those are, if you could see that too, I don't know if that's what he's talking about. Yeah, I've co-authored 2 best-selling books, Pushing to the Front and Beat the Curve. And, they're available on our website. So you can always go to our resources, and they're on ebook format, and they're also in hard copy. So,
well, that's great. And John, thank you very much for bringing that up. So,
thank you.
Now you've got another reason to search Melissa Whitaker up. Thank you. Well, that's awesome. And without further ado, I'm going to bring in one of our guests now. Before I do, I'm going to do a little bit of bragging for him. I've been, really helping people with this flat rate model again for a lot of years. And every once in a while, I see someone come out of the gates who is just absolutely knocking it out of the park. And if anyone's on LinkedIn and follows the person that's going to be our guest today, who's really succeeding with it in the marketplace, you'll know who I'm talking about. So without further ado, I'm going to bring you in. So Earl Everson, and you'll notice in your caption there, I've got Chicago's flat rate king. So
there you go. There you go. I love it. I love it.
So how you doing, Earl?
I'm excellent, man. How about yourself?
Hey, you know what? No complaints. Like I said, we're in day 3 of the flat rate challenge. We've had an amazing response to it.
Yeah.
It's been going really well. And I can't thank you enough for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Today, I tell you what, I actually feel like the purple cow right now after listening to the story. Right? I should be wearing something purple, have my lights purple in the background. So anyway, that was a great story. But you're absolutely right. The purple cow, man, that's a great thing. But the flat rate is the purple cow.
I think it is, right? And that's Seth Godin I thought it was just such a brilliant thing because it really does talk about that little mind shift, that little bit of change, right, that we're doing, right?
Yeah.
And, so maybe you can introduce yourself for everyone, because not everyone's going to know who you are, and just take a few minutes to let the world know who you are.
Sure, I appreciate it. I'm Earl Everson. I'm president of a copier dealership. We're a Xerox partner here in Schaumburg. Actually, it's a suburb of Chicago, about 40 miles west. I started the company actually in 08-ish, and so it's been 12 years for us. But I tell you, for the first 5 years, it was a learning experience. And then popped out this concept of this flat rate program that we're going to talk about. So excited. It's definitely helped us separate ourselves and our dealership from the competition. Obviously, Chicago is like the 3rd most competitive marketplace in the country. So I had to do something different. And it was the flat rate that I really took on. So looking forward to talking about this flat rate and what it does for a dealership and from a marketing side.
Yeah, and I know a little bit about your history. You just mentioned that Chicago is obviously a pretty dense marketplace, right? As most of those urban centers really are. Mm-hmm. And although it sounds like there's a lot of opportunity, it can be pretty tough because you've got so many big established players, right?
Right.
So how was that inspired? How did you get started? Like, what was the day where you said, I'm going to start this dealership?
Starting the dealership was kind of an easy thing. I just wanted to jump off the cliff, to be honest, and just go on my own, just do something on my own. corporate America was a great experience for me for 15 years, but I thought, you know what? Why not be creative for myself? I was always kind of that person getting slapped on the hand, thinking outside the box, and I was always tied and restrained to certain things. So I started, selling laser toner cartridges in the beginning, and then I got back into selling hardware because customers were asking about the printers and the copiers. So made the investment to jump on board and just start selling hardware. However, when I did that, I knew I was going to be competing with some of the established companies in Chicago, and it was extremely hard, and playing ball in their field, it's hard to beat them. So I had to be different and had to separate myself. And how could I do it? I couldn't be the traditional copier solution rep where I was coming in with hardware and your typical CPP program and all that. I was losing the game. And everyone out there that's listening, how competitive our world is. And for myself, I want to be different. I want to be, even though it's a competitive world, I want to eliminate all the competition. And with this flat rate program, I didn't realize at the time how I just completely eliminated my competitors.
Yeah, it's amazing, like you and I have spoken, about this, right? But it completely upsets that level playing field, if you will.
Yeah.
The conversation that you're having with the customers. I mean, that's one of the things we know, that customers over time learn to own sales cycles, right? So when you think of the early days, when Melissa mentioned that she was doing a, managed print as a specialist, as was I, man, it was fun in those early days because we were the only game in town, right?
That's right.
Fast forward to today, the customers had more proposals. They've had more agreements in place already for traditional models that they kind of own that sales process. So typically we've had this race to the bottom where we're just competing on price, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And this, this gives the sales rep something exciting to talk about, number one. Number two, it gives the customer something exciting to know that, hey, we have, predictable billing. Nothing's going to change within our contract. It's all included under this flat rate program. And the most important thing for me, the majority of our business is net new business. And there's nothing easier to close the net new business with a flat rate program when you're comparing it to your traditional boring lease and service and supply contract. It's so boring. But when you come in with a flat rate, this is, to me, the Uber, the Tesla, the Verizon wireless of the industry, because customers know, hey, this is simple. Why is this so simple? Because the way it's catered to the customer. It's a customer-centric program, period. But it's a win-win. At the end of the day, it's a win solution for the dealership, and it's a win for the customer.
Right.
And when the customers get that, it's a no-brainer. It's like, why wouldn't we do this? So.
Well, and the option wasn't there before, right? It's kind of funny. Like when we talked about managed print in the early days, we actually had bigger aspirations and ambitions, I think, than it turned into, right?
Yeah.
We really did start at wanting to, help customers to be more efficient, effective, and everything else. But it ran away on itself pretty quickly because of the focus on the page. People started figuring it out pretty quickly. It's like, wait a minute. If I sell more color pages, then I'm going to make more money, right? So how do I get the customer to print more color pages? And, we're always inspired to do things by how we're paid, right? And that's one thing I love about the flat rate program is a lot of those elements in our costs. And as you said, doing what's right for the customer, it's like, hey, I only want you to print as much color as you need to, because if you print more than that, then I lose money too. So, let's be in alignment. A lot of dealers that are, hesitant, and certainly if anyone has questions or comments for Earl, just make sure you throw them in the comment section there. I'm sure he'd love to be able to answer some of them. Yeah. But, one of the questions that I hear quite often is, you can't make money at this, right? That it's too dangerous, right? So what words would you have for people that, that say that?
Listen, for the past 5 years that we've done this, we've been more profitable than ever.
Okay.
I mean, that's all I can say is this is truly a great program for the dealerships, for myself. Obviously, there was a huge fear factor when I jumped on, I guess, but I jumped in and never looked back. And I said, the flat rate program is my go-to-market strategy, period. This is how I'm going to replace all of my competitors out there, because I know That fear factor is too big for them to make an adjustment for me. So with that, let them stay fearful, because for that, I can cover so much more ground. And the closing cycle, the whole sales process is so much shorter with the flat rate program because it's so simple. It's simple for the customer.
I love what you're saying there. And it's shorter because it's simpler. And then I guess because there's fewer competitors, they have fewer things that they're trying to actually, do their analysis on, right? It's like, well, I love the flat rate model. Earl's the one that's doing it, so let's get going.
Exactly. Listen, for us, we go into every account. If you're paying more than 0.00 per page, right? That's the old antiquated system, right? And you shouldn't be billed, because this eliminates overage invoices. This eliminates all of your cost per page invoices. Customers want one invoice. No, that's it. We can budget month in, month out, and we get everything included, done, right? How much easier can it be for a dealership or for the customer? And even for a dealership, now I'm not sending out overage invoices. I'm not chasing meters. I could care less about the meters. However, we watch the meters, don't get me wrong.
Oh, of course.
We're not sending out a $20 invoice to a customer and then waiting for that invoice. We're done. Everything's directly through our leasing partner, and that's it. So from a dealer side, it's simplified for us as well.
I love it. And maybe you can talk a little bit about your experience selling to customers. Like, what kind of reactions from the customers actually surprised you?
It's in the beginning, we didn't have our talk track down, to be honest. And it took us maybe 6 months to really kind of fail and learn the process of selling this concept, because before we were like, hey, we're not going to charge you any more per page. The customer's like, what am I missing here? It's too good to be true, right? Like, let's go back to the drawing board and figure out the talk track, because without the right talk track, it seems too good to be true. So we realized that, hey, here's our program. This is our go-to-market strategy. This is how we're going to present it. And anytime, because for me, anything I ever have done in the copier industry, I want to attack the marketplace knowing that I can ask one question. If you're paying per page to print, I want to talk to you, right? 99.9% of the customers out there, unless they're like an elite customer, they're paying per page, right? So it opens the game up. It opens up opportunities where there weren't before, right? So it's like, we know everybody has a copier, but how is their program set up? So now I've really created this program surrounding this flat rate program to separate myself completely from the competitors. And even when the competitors start to come on board, I'm already 3-4 steps ahead.
Right. That's the important part. Yeah,
exactly. Because I'm always, refreshing and rebranding this flat rate program, and I see the do's and don'ts. But again, I've learned throughout the time, like, how to make it a win-win situation for both sides.
I like what you say about, taking time to hone down the, the talk track, right? And a lot of the dealers that you consult with to let them know that it is going to take time to kind of make a flat rate program that is truly their own, that feels like their own. Yeah. And from a marketing perspective, one of the things that you said I just loved was, if you're paying more than 0.000 per page, you're paying too much, right? That it's kind of a funny thing, because I'm like waiting for it. I'm like, oh yeah, like, that's great, because they'll be expecting that page play, and you just told them there isn't one.
Yeah, right.
0.0.
Exactly. Nothing, because listen, dealers in the past have always said, when will the cost per page stop? It just keeps declining. And the margins get smaller and smaller, right? I mean, 15 years ago, we're charging 20 cents a page for color. Now in a competitive marketplace, we'll see 3.5 cents all day long. So dealers are like, wow, they're starting to scratch their head, like, the margins are getting thinner and thinner. So I said, well, why not recreate the wheel, recreate a program where you can now become more profitable through a flat rate program? Customers like, that's impossible. Or, dealers like, it's impossible. So I see a question popped up.
Yeah, we got a comment here from Nelson Everett. He's asking you a question. Is your flat rate model based on user, devices, or locations?
Neither. Neither. It's based on just the units, placements, but no, entirely not users at all.
Yeah. And that's the one thing that we try and express to everybody is that there are so many ways to present your flat rate offering to your customer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know that Xerox, I just noticed the other day that they've also started advertising some of the, the stuff that they're doing for flat rate, Konica Minolta, with their one rate program that they're device based. And yeah, so that's great. So hopefully that answers your question, Nelson, and gives you some inspiration on how you can simply do that for yourself.
Listen, for every dealership is being ran differently, right? So we created a flat rate program to mirror our infrastructure,
right?
Our process and our comp plans and everything else. It just mirrors what our dealership is all about, and everybody else is different, So I think everyone's flat rate program is going to look a little bit different.
Yeah, and it should.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's one of the the things that I get asked is what's the best way to do it, and my answer has to be, and I'm not trying to dodge the question. It's like they're all good ways as long as if it's truly a flat model, right? Mm-hmm. So, and I love what you say there is that as long as it mirrors kind of how your culture is internally, how your business is run, that's the best way. So it could be on a device basis, could be on a user basis, could be in a combination, etc. Right? So
yeah, exactly.
So you obviously have some, folks working for you, that are selling it too, right? What do you think some of the fundamental things are from your perspective on getting them ready to go out there and sell flat rate?
Just the marketing approach really is to understand, for us, it's understanding the competition, understanding their programs. And we try to understand our competitors' programs better than their own, what they know of their programs, the ins and outs. And how do you leverage a flat rate program? How do you structure this program to make it more appealing for a customer that's paying cost per page, that's paying overage invoices, that are paying for all these escalations? How do you, take this program that they're currently in and saying, we have a better mousetrap. We have a better way to do business. And, I always say this, and I'll pull it out because I use it in my videos every once in a while. But it's my, let me see if I got it here. Maybe somebody took it. But it's my little flip phone. It's my little flip phone from like 15 years ago where we were billed 10, 15 cents per minute, right? To talk. And then Verizon Wireless, they come out with this unlimited data plan. We're like, wow, this is great. Unlimited data, unlimited calls, call all the time. It's the best thing in the world, right? You would never, ever go back to a cost per page or a cost per minute on your cell phone. You'd be insane to do it. So I said, how can I take that concept? How can I take an Uber concept of knowing that I have a flat rate cab ride from A to B, no matter how traffic is in Chicago, no matter how the weather is, I know I'm going to pay X amount, right?
Yeah.
Take the time. I'm going to enjoy this ride, right? So
I always love those examples that, you can actually instantly, it's almost like you just snap your fingers there when you use an example like cell phones.
Yeah.
Which gets the customer to understand. It's like, oh yeah, okay, I get it. Yeah, I have already been here, right? I was doing that. I was paying for usage on those cell plans, just like I am for printers today.
Exactly. And that's one thing that we describe to our customers. Do you still pay per minute to talk on your phone? They go, are you crazy?
Right.
So we go, why are you still paying per page to print on this copier, this printer? Why? It doesn't make sense. That's the old 80s style, right? I'm going to start playing Bon Jovi and Journey when I'm talking to customers because they can relate to that. But, the new world is here. This is the future. It's here. Customers need it. They want it. When they hear about this, that's why I get so many calls throughout the country. Like, wow, can you do a flat rate program in Wyoming? Can you do it here? They're asking for this because when they hear it, boom, they need it.
Yeah. Well, and you've done such an amazing job, Earl, and I can't thank you enough. You've been so generous to be able to share this, with people that are tuned in and trying to learn more about it, other dealers. So I wish you continued success. I look forward to seeing more of your wins and following you. I love watching your videos. You actually helped me quite a bit when I was getting ready for this live stream using the same platform as you and watching what you were doing. So can't thank you enough, brother.
Thank you.
All right. All the best.
Hey, thank you.
And get you back in here, Ken. Yeah, it's really amazing when you hear a dealer like that.
Yeah, I want to say thanks to Earl because his content was amazing. I love, and I think everybody could take lessons from Earl on marketing and using LinkedIn and LinkedIn Live effectively. He is so state of the art, let's say, in his approach to everything he's doing.
Yeah, absolutely true. It's good that you mentioned that because I am actually going to bring that up here in a couple of minutes. And I think the first thing what we're going to do now is we're going to move into the part of the day, the part of the hour when we actually start talking about the 5 things that you can do to start mastering the sales and marketing here. And one of the first things that you can do, let's see if I can bring this up here now, is to get a specialist. And as Melissa talked about earlier, like we were both managed print specialists, and it was amazing for a lot of reasons, right? But, number one is you got to think that your existing sales force, they're already trained and expert at what they're doing, right? So if they're paid on gross profit on the devices, and that's how they know to get paid, and you give them something new and more difficult, I'm not saying that they can't do it, but I am saying it's going to take time. And that initially, especially as you're starting to move through the flat rate offering that you're building, because remember, this is not going to happen for you overnight. Like even with a flat rate specialist, you're going to have somebody that's going to be learning along the way. I like that Earl mentioned when he was talking about their talk track, that it took them a while to get that talk track down, right? So this specialist is going to need 100% focus on actually selling the flat rate program. If their paycheck depends on it, they'll do it. And I can guarantee you that's how any entrepreneur works, and good sales reps are entrepreneurs. So make sure that the way that they get paid, that there's nothing else to distract them from that. And the other thing is not every deal is going to be a flat rate deal, right, Ken? We've talked about this, that sometimes you're going to have to say no to that, and you're still going to need that expertise for those cost per page agreements, right? For your existing customers, and sometimes you're going to be customers that you simply don't want to sell flat rate to.
Yeah, we talked about the fact that there are just some markets. So schools are very definitely iffy, depends on the situation. Pay for print. You don't want to go to the local print shop and put him on a flat rate program, because he'll go out and write a lot more business, and you're going to be funding it for him. So there are markets where it really applies. There are markets where you can go in and start to own the market because you offer something that matches the client's needs. And the key thing, and I want to talk for just a second here, Wes, along these lines, is when you get the paycheck aligned with the objective, aligned with the customer's needs, then all you got to do is get out of their way and give them the training they need to go.
And the one thing I'll add to that, it's actually a good opportunity to move into bullet number 2, which is to change the compensation model. And I'm going to pull this up here. There's a couple that I work with primarily, simply because I work with dealers and I know that they work. So just one second here while we switch. There we go. So I'm just going to hide this for a second because it doesn't look like it's showing up. So there are 2 ways really to compensate. And for the dealers that Ken and I work with, we actually share a couple of worksheets which help build these compensation models out so you understand exactly what you're doing and how you're motivating those people, right? And the one model is gross profit plus annuity. So essentially, that the rep is still getting paid to make sure, and Earl mentioned that, they're selling more new hardware, more new business through the program. And most people are. And so the reps, if they're used to getting paid on GP, that can still be there. But this addition of an annuity stream is important as well, because unlike a traditional sales rep, the flat rate specialist has to make sure that that customer continues to pay their flat rate every month for the duration of that contract and beyond, right? So it is possible to do that. I work with one dealer friend of mine. I won't name names today, but he's been doing this model for over 20 years, and it works brilliantly for him, right? So the key thing is, and I get this all the time, is, well, wait a minute, I'm going to lose my shirt if I have to keep paying on this deal forever. And that's not true at all. What is true is that you have to be very careful on how much you're paying per page, and to build the picture of that annuity over a 3 to 4 year time span, right? The other thing is to make sure that you put a gate in place that protects you should they not be going after their hardware quotas. And Ken, I know this is such a difficult topic, right? That I would say one of the hardships that we have when we're selling flat rate is the OEMs still want their pound of flesh. They're still giving us discounts on the number of devices we sell, the type of hardware, et cetera, right? So we've got to continue, to do that, right? So in that GP model, they can still, make sure that they're driving that. And if they don't hit their quota for the quarter, what happens, Ken?
They lose their annuity. And
Right.
this is such a powerful tool. I've got to talk for a minute, Wes. Sorry.
Please do.
I love this because it lets you line up, again, the objectives. When you have sales reps, one of the challenges in every dealership is turnover. The reason your insurance agent is still selling the same policies they were 30 years ago is because of the annuities they get. They're not going to give up that annuity. And so when you put your sales team on a program that builds an annuity and that requires them to meet what we're talking about on hardware is we care about net new business. One of the challenges, one of the frustrations I have, because my focus is on service, is so often the sales reps are out there to meet quota. They're constantly upgrading your existing base. And that's good for the sales rep and it's good for the manufacturer. It's probably not as good for you as it should be, and it's killing your service team because when they upgrade the equipment, they drop the price. And so you want to get rid of that, and we get them to just nothing but hunting for net new business.
Yeah. And, as an MPS specialist in the early days, that's what I did. And through assessment selling, that's what we do is go after that net new business, right? And so I think that can help kind of take the fear away of that. But it's really just a question of right-sizing that. And Ken, the other calculator that we use with our customers is that right-size comparison, right? So we put the typical, device on top, which is going, typically to replace a like for like. And then we use the assessment data to actually position the correct device in that environment. And it's incredible how they're still, chasing that hardware quota, they're still selling it, but they're making more money on it because they're not pricing it as a single unit that it's worked into the deal, right? And that actually kind of brings up the second point. You can speak to this as well. I love this second model because of its simplicity, right? So it's just total deal revenue percentage. And when we talk about this total deal revenue percentage, what we're talking about is everything included in that. It could be the hardware combined with the number of pages that are in the contract, combined with the software that's being used to drive that program, right? That's the total revenue over the time frame of the life of the deal. And I've got several dealer friends that love this for its simplicity. And so Earl mentioned it earlier that when you're offering a program, there's no right or wrong answer on how to do this, but it has to match your culture. So if your culture is used to, still getting that one-time payment, then you can still do that. But to make sure that they start looking at the overall health of the contract. And what I love about this, Ken, on the total deal revenue is that there are many ways to get their paycheck. It's not just based on the GP on that piece of equipment, right?
I would say exactly. And again, I love that because one of the things right now that happens in the marketplace is to get a deal, we start cutting the service. Now, most of you that are listening are familiar with the model that is called the Pro Finance, the global model. There's 50 names for it, but in that model, sales operates at a net loss. Service is where your profit comes from. And you cannot get 52% or 54% profit in service if you're discounting the service revenue. You're starting to drive, like I said, you drive money to the manufacturer, you drive money to your sales rep, but it comes at the expense of your profit machine in the company. And by the way, we do have a couple of questions that we ought to probably.
Yeah, we're going to jump into those. I'm going to finish off on that, though, is saying that, when you look at like the guests that we had on our first day, when we're talking about success stories overseas, right, that they make a phenomenal amount of money on making sure that when they're replacing certain pieces of equipment, sometimes it's used because it really doesn't matter, right? And Flat Rate gives you that capability to put the right device in the right place for the right reason, right? Now, I know you'll be talking about that more when we get into the service side. And one of our sponsors actually does a phenomenal job of showing just how much money they're leaving on the table sometimes by letting a device leave the fleet too early, right?
Yeah.
So we do have some comments here. Yeah, this is a neat one. Thanks for asking, Linda. Is there a vertical market that flat rate works well in? I would say most verticals, and then there are a few where you have to be cautious with. And I'm not saying don't go after them, but make sure you have the data. So a couple of good examples would be education, right? Because they have such a heavy fluctuation of pages for certain times of the year. So exam time, I can guarantee you that there's going to be a lot more pages than you're going to have, at the beginning of the year or the middle of the year, and certainly more pages than when they're on spring break or, summer vacation, right? So you've got to be careful. What I say there is that you've just got to have the data. And yesterday when we talked about assessments, can you remember we talked about making sure that you get as much as you can? We just went through a pandemic. So I want a lot of data. I want to know what they were doing in 2018, 2019, before 2020 to kind of figure out what those trends look like and how they're doing now, right? So that's what I would say. That the verticals that it works best in, obviously, are the ones, at least initially, as you're getting used to it, are ones that are fairly stable. So general office is phenomenal, right? Because, that's most of our customers today anyway. Most of the dealers I work with, unless they're specializing in healthcare or they're specializing in, education, et cetera, right? So hopefully that answers that question. The second one that we have is from Ian. And thanks, Ian, for being here today with us. With user page counts trending down, and yes, they are trending down, how has the pandemic affected the effectiveness of your flat rate model? Yeah, I would say it's actually, it's made it better, right? And one of the things that both Earl and Melissa talked about earlier was getting kind of like, the executive, like people on board with that mind shift in the difference in this, right? That, you should be paying 0.000 per page. I love that. Earl, I'm going to start using that because it's just a phenomenal piece of advice for people, right? And that customers actually care less about pages than you think, right? What they're really interested in, we're going to move into this in a minute. So I'm going to further answer your question with one of our, 5 points that we're going to talk about, is to give them things that are more important to them than this idea of pages. So our friends in France that went through the pandemic and other people that I talked to, Earl included, did a much better job of weathering the pandemic because they had those contracts. And no, customers weren't coming back and saying, you got to do better. You got to get rid of this or anything else, right? Because that's not how their contracts were built. What I do recommend, though, you do have to be fair. And if there are extraneous circumstances, but just make sure that you have that contract set for any changes to happen on at least a yearly basis. And one of the clients that I deal with, that saved them from any holes in their revenue, because guess what? In 2021, those pages came back up. So when they did the review, there was no longer anything to talk about. They were right back where they started.
Let me just interject there for a second, because I've talked to several dealers that are on the flat rate program, and all of them said that their revenue stayed the same. They didn't suffer at all, but their profits actually went up because their costs went down. They weren't creating content. Now, I agree exactly with what Wes said about being fair. And so what it does is it puts you in control. So if you achieve significant savings because your customer wasn't making prints, you can always go back to the customer and say, listen, we know that this has been tough on you. And so what we're going to do, because we appreciate you as a customer, we want to help, is we're going to give you, we're going to extend your contract out a couple of months and let you skip a couple of payments to help. So now you're in control. You can help your client and you don't give up anything.
Yeah, and I think it's important too from a sales perspective. I'm a big believer in this. And again, there's no right or wrong way to do this. But if it was me, I can tell you that I'd be looking at those quarterly reviews to be able to upsell other things. And when we talk about dealers that did a great job of weathering the pandemic, the ones that had flat rate programs did a great job, but the ones that had flat rate and also had a managed technology practice, they didn't just weather the storm, they grew, right? They grew through that pandemic. So I would say, yes, pages are in decline, and that's okay, because we should be going in and layering in these additional services. And that's certainly a conversation for another day in the 10-day challenge. We'll get into that. So I won't talk much more about it today. But certainly those page declines have actually accelerated the interest in the flat rate program. So I'm going to move into the third point that we have here and keep the value proposition simple. And I'm just going to bring up another thing here. Where is it here? Looks like I don't have it in here. When we talk about the purple cow that's up there in the corner, keeping the value proposition simple is really important. And I don't think we need to complicate this too much, right? And typically when I'm talking with customers, that there are three things that I really speak to. Number one is budgetability, right? And Earl talked about that earlier, this 100% ability to budget for print. And our friends from France also spoke about that on the first day, that customers really love to be able to budget for print. It's amazing. If you talk to people at organizations, they can budget for everything. They've got a budget for their technology spend. They've got a budget for HR. They've got a budget for sales and marketing. They've got a budget for everything except for managed print because the pages change every month. So this is something that people want. So number one is that budgetability. The second thing that I would say is the ability to stop counting. And if everyone can stop and pause for a second, when we're delivering cost per page, it's not magic. In fact, it's quite difficult. And we get rid of some of that difficulty with software, but people do have to get those meter reads, both at the dealer level. And then guess what? The customer has to count them again. And when they count them again, they start not liking them because if there's a firmware update in a certain printer or something else happens, or they have to get a manual meter read from a service technician, and when those invoices are wrong, nobody likes that, like nobody. So, and it takes a lot of administrative time to be able to do that. So we completely get rid of that. The third piece that I would say from a value proposition for simplicity is to really express to them the alignment that have with them, right? And if I'm selling flat rate, guess what? I'm going to talk about how cost per page models motivate sales reps, that we want additional pages, that we want additional hardware, right? Because these are straight revenue items. But under a flat rate program, once I get you in there, I want you to be effective. I want you to be efficient because you're going to save more money because I'm going to save more money at administrating the program, right? In other words, we're completely aligned now. What used to be a high ticket revenue item like printing more color now becomes something that is a cost within that flat rate program. So, really take some time to talk about that alignment, which doesn't exist in other, traditional print models, right, Ken?
Exactly. That is exactly right.
Number 4, create flat rate marketing materials. And I think I do have a couple of websites up here, just because I like to look at what other people are doing in the marketplace. Here's one here. Let's bring it up. Make sure that you have all of your marketing materials ready. And it doesn't have to be much. So most of the dealer sites that, I visit, again, because of the simplicity of this marketing, have a very simple message. And it really just, it's not that hard to talk about seat-based billing or flat rate billing compared to those cost per page models. So you can see from a lot of these sites, Great America has done some stuff as well. They're a sponsor of ours for another day on the finance side, right? Have these materials ready. Have those things on your website so that when people start researching you, that they actually understand that you're in the business, right? There's nothing worse than hearing people talk about something, and then when they go to look for it, it's like, yeah, I was on your website trying to find the stuff that you do for, flat rate billing, and I didn't see anything, right? It's like, oh yeah, no, we don't have that there. Oh, could you send me a brochure? No, we don't have one of those either, right? But we do offer it. So it's make sure that you have those things created ahead of time. And when I'm working with customers, training them on the flat rate side, before we ever talk to a sales rep in the organization about the offering, we make sure that those marketing materials, that everything is done and waiting in the wings, right? So that when they get ready to go, that those marketing materials are ready to go, with them as well, right? And, one of the things that I'll say, Ken, a lot of people that are in the 10-day challenge right now, the customers that we work with on a regular basis, and we'll, kind of talk about how you can get in touch with us later, this Flat Rate Academy logo that you see up in the corner there, both our sponsor partners have the affiliate logos, which they're allowed to use in their marketing materials. And those people that we have trained and that we can understand are actually certified to do this flat rate model, they'll get those certifications and logos as well, right? So flat rate certified logos can be yours if you go through the program. And whatever that is, I'd also encourage you to look at some of the other organizations. I know that tons of people have done this through CompTIA, the Managed Print Trust Mark. I would much more trust a company that has a managed print trust mark than doesn't, because I know the standards that they move through, kind of et cetera. So think about those things as well.
And I'm going to just interject one thing too, is
Please.
If you're first in your market, one of the things that can really start to help your marketing efforts is to get out in front of people and educate them on flat rate. And you can have that conversation with all of the different organizations that have meetings. You've got the Chamber of Commerce. You quite probably have a local medical association, the local bar association. A lot of places need speakers, so you can get out in front and you can start to be the person that educates people. You could write news releases or articles for your local newspaper. All of these things. Oh, there you go. Thank you. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to jump the gun. But we don't rehearse these. We just go. But all of these things are ways that you can position yourself as an expert. And so that when people think about flat rate, they think about you.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. We're on the same boat, with this for sure. And I know that when we're doing these live streams, for example, 10 days, right? People have said, wow, it's a lot of work. And I can tell you that it is for both Ken and I. There's so much more work that goes into this than just us talking for an hour every day, right? It's unbelievable how much work goes into this. And people ask, well, why would you do that? And the answer is very simple for what Ken just said. We are thought leaders in this space, right? We are sharing our expertise with people. And good grief, I'm forgetting his name right now, which is terrible. But, the guy that says you have to give before you ask, right?
Gary V.
Yeah, it's really important to make sure that you're sharing that expertise. And look at the people that do. I mean, everyone that we've had on here, from Earl with his program to our friends in France to some other guests that we'll have during the week, it's that sharing and making sure that people understand that you're a thought leader, right? So I know that I'll be speaking, and you'll be there as well, Ken, on flat rate at an event. Can't mention it yet, but coming up in October, right? People are hungry for that. And I guarantee that your customers are too. So when you think of any of those trade associations, when you think of how your customers get together for their particular vertical and the kinds of things that they're interested in. So one, get out there and speak, write those blogs, make sure that you do some videos. Video is so hot right now. Like if you're not doing video, I mean, Ken and I aren't, young people, millennials or whatever, right? But we're doing video in our marketing mix because everyone needs to, right? So start doing those things and sharing your ideas and making sure that you are seen as a thought leader in the space. And you can't call yourself a thought leader. You've got to wait for someone else to call you that. And the only way you can do that is to make sure you're putting that information out there in the marketplace, that people see you as the thought leader because of the amount of help and assistance that you are, absolutely giving them, right?
And this is one of the things for the people that work with us, is we're going to help you put together content. We're going to do a lot of things to try to prime your gun, so to speak, so that you're ready to go and be out there and be successful.
Hey, we got one more question to get to. Hey, Adam, good to see you. And the question is, have you ever seen this model attempted by a dealership and they failed? And more importantly, why? Very interesting concept, and look forward to learning more. Yes, I have seen people that have failed at the model. Absolutely. And it's not really so much that they failed because people weren't buying it, but because they were only experimenting with it. And we tell people all the time, if you think you're going to become, like Elite Document Solutions or others that have been doing this and that are making a name for themselves in the marketplace in 6 months, get ready for disappointment. Just like anything else, right? What do they say, Ken? I think it's 10,000 hours to develop expertise, right? And it's amazing that, people expect to be expert at these things in 6 months and then they give up. So one of the things that our guest Earl said today as well is he just jumped in, right? And it was hard at first and he just kept pushing through. And I think that really is the advice, is that the failure comes from expectations that are far too high, right? This will revolutionize how you do business. It'll revolutionize how you move managed print, but don't expect to do that overnight. Take the time. Work with people like Melissa Whitaker International. Make sure that your sales teams are actually learning and being directed towards this new way of doing things, right? Make sure you're educating your customers on the differences between cost per page and flat rate and why that's important. And you won't fail, but it is just a question of time. So make sure you give it the time that needs to go there. So really appreciate that. One more, Richie Creech. Interesting how West is a Star Wars fan. Flat rate, Rise of the Resistance. Hey, I appreciate that. Yes, so I definitely am a Star Wars fan and a huge flat rate fan. So to be able to put those two together, that was awesome. I can't thank you enough. Hey, listen, everyone, we have hit the end of the hour. So if you're watching this on YouTube or LinkedIn or Facebook, make sure that you register. Ken and I are actually giving away $250 on the last day of the 10-day challenge. You got to be there to win it, and you got to be registered to win it. But the other thing is you're going to get the repository of each and every one of these videos in the series because of your membership. And there's going to be a lot of other benefits, there as well. So make sure that you do register there. I'm not sure if it's in the private chat or not. Is that? Nope. That's okay. You got it there. Take a screenshot of that. The other thing I would encourage people to do is you don't have to wait for the 10-day challenge to accelerate your progress in this. So if you want to talk to Ken and I about how you can do that, please reach out through LinkedIn, through our website, et cetera. We look forward to hearing from you. So pretty excited. Tomorrow, you'll be hearing from one of our other sponsors, and Ed McLaughlin. I think everyone knows Ed McLaughlin very well. He's got an incredible organization now called Predictive Insights with Sean Cashmark. And we're going to be talking about hardware and software and how that fits into the flat rate model. So for everyone that tuned in today, Melissa, thank you very much for everything that you've done. Actually, maybe I'll just bring you in here to say goodbye as you're still here. That was very nice of you to stay. Hey, Melissa, thank you.
So much. Thank you, Melissa. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. And everyone else out there, we'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Wow.